Am I the a-hole for not letting my adult daughter share a room with her boyfriend on family vacation? Hopefully all of this crap blows over by December, but my sister are planning on taking our families on a trip over the holidays. It will be my wife and I, our 2 kids, 23 female, 18 male, my sister, husband and their 4 kids, 17 to 10 years old, my parents, and my oldest daughter's boyfriend. My daughter has been dating this guy for 3 years, and the family accepts him as one at this point. Everyone really likes him. He's a very smart kid. My daughter doesn't live at home, but she also doesn't live with him, though I'm sure they play house a decent amount as their apartments are pretty close. I was on the phone with her the other day and we were discussing the trip. I asked her if she'd rather share a room with her brother or 2 of her cousins. She was taken back by this and asked why she couldn't stay with her boyfriend, as he's come on trips with us before, and it's about time I realize they're both adults and can share a room. I told her that it's not going to happen. I explained that I'm paying for the trip and everything, so she's going to have a room with either her brother or cousins and that's final. If she wanted to go on a trip with her boyfriend that they were funding themselves, go ahead and get one room. But it's a family trip. She is not married to this guy, so they will not be sharing a room. I think with my more traditional parents and younger nieces and nephews going, I think it's inappropriate. I told her if her and her boyfriend wanted to pay for their own rooms they can't afford, they can do what they want. But as long as I'm paying and they are not married, I'm not going to let my daughter share a room with her boyfriend. I told my wife about all this and she agrees with me, but our daughter still thinks we are in the wrong and we need to stop treating her like a child. But she is our child, and if it's under our roof or a hotel that I'm paying for, it's still our rules. If she doesn't like it, she can either not go on the trip or pay for her own room. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. She's an adult. She's been with the guy for years. It's not a fling. I got asshole vibes from you when you use the term playing house, as if they aren't living independently, assuming they handle their own finances and you don't assume any financial responsibility for them. They aren't playing house, they are living life as adults. All you've done by not allowing them to share a room is alienated the boyfriend, driven a rift between him and the entire family, and caused unnecessary conflict between you and your daughter. Get a clue. Your daughter is having sex with her long-term boyfriend. They're adults and you have no control over it anymore. If this ultimatum were given to me, I'd opt out of the trip and probably limit how much time I spent with you after it. You're the a-hole. Yes, you're paying and you have the right to say they can't stay together. But it is 100% an asshole move. They are 23. That's fully an adult. I can tell you with certainty that they have had sex before. I don't know what you're trying to prevent here. I mean, are you really going to force your daughter to stay with her brother or her cousins? I know very few adult women who would want to share a room for a trip with their brother or share a room with 2 other people when they could just share with their boyfriend who they've been dating for years. On top of that, is the boyfriend going to be staying in a room alone? If so, that's a waste of money and sets him apart from everybody else. If you're making him stay with a male relative of yours, that's just weird. Your daughter is right. Stop treating her like a child, and don't be surprised if this ends up damaging your relationship in the long run. Info. 1. If she was only 19, not 23, but she got knocked up and married him, would you let them stay together? 2. What if she was 23, but had only known him for 6 months and they rushed into marriage? 3. What is your plan if she never marries? Will you make her partner of 20 years sleep separately? I'm curious about your answers, but I'm leaning strongly towards you're the a-hole. You claim to accept him, but you aren't treating him like her partner. Similarly, you aren't treating your daughter like an adult. And frankly, you seem dismissive of their relationship by saying they're playing house when spending time together. You also don't seem to care about whether or not he'll be comfortable sleeping in a room with guys he isn't close to. This man may become your son-in-law. How you treat him now will affect your relationship in the future. Think twice. I love this response. Before my husband and I were married, his mom would never allow us to stay in the same room when we went to visit her, and my hubby and I were 26 and owned a house together. That, among other things, put an incredible amount of strain on our relationship with her because we felt she didn't value or recognize our relationship. She passed away before my hubby and I got married. We weren't on good terms. Marriage is more than the piece of paper she and you require. So if you think this guy will be a future son-in-law, you might want to start treating him as such. 100% this. I know this is anecdotal, but my parents were like opus. They still treated me like a child despite me being a fully grown, living on my own adult. Which seems harmless enough. It puts a bit of strain on the relationship, but it's not too bad until I got into trouble and my partner became abusive, and I had no one to turn to because I had fought so hard for every inch of my hard-won adulthood and independence that I knew if I told my parents I needed help, I would lose every bit of it. So I hid it. For years and years and years. My marriage ended over 10 years ago, and my parents still don't know that it was abusive. I still hide it from them because I'm a grown woman with 2 teenage kids that I've raised all by myself, and we still have friction over times that they treat me like a child. I don't know how to have an adult relationship with my parents besides by being stubbornly independent and never ever asking them for any help. To be honest, I think you're not the a-hole. Both my boyfriend and I, been dating for 4 years, are in our 20s, and when we go on family vacations we expect to be asked to sleep in separate rooms. Sure, it's a bother and we are both adults, so we'd like to sleep together, but we do it out of respect for our more traditional families. It's not like we won't get to spend alone time during the vacation and after. If it bothers your daughter so much, you did give her the option to get her own room. So I don't see why you'd be such an a-hole. Edit. I see a lot of comments on how I'd be weird for the boyfriend to room with a brother or nephew, and for the daughter to room with another family member, but that seems pretty normal to me. My boyfriend has an amazing relationship with my younger brother and my cousins, so he's always happy to room with them. I also see no problem with having to share a room with an aunt, another cousin, etc. on a trip, as I'd have to do that often when I was younger. Maybe it's just my upbringing and how much I can relate to this question, but you're not the a-hole. Info. Were you open with your daughter about your room assignment plans when you invited them as a couple? If not, then you're the a-hole. They may have been able to budget for their own room had you told them right away. They might have declined the invitation and not wasted vacation days from work. You invited them, knew they would object to your room assignments, and didn't tell them your plans, so they couldn't make an informed decision about if they wanted to come on the family trip. Also, what are your plans should they decide to never get married? Will you continue to not see the boyfriend as family in 10 years if they cohabitate, or if they have kids but aren't married? Is this something you're willing to risk your relationship with your daughter over? My parents were into the whole no room sharing under my room or on my dime thing too. His parents accepted me as family and have joined us on May family vacations. We have never invited my parents to travel with us. My parents have missed out on a lot of fun memories with the grandkids because they chose an antiquated belief about marriage over their actual child. That chose has lasting consequences. You're the a-hole. So much of an asshole that it's hard to fathom you had to ask. Your daughter isn't playing house with her boyfriend. They are adults in a long-term relationship, and it's well past time you accept that. So all the other adults that are going, you, your wife, your parents, and your sister and husband, they all get rooms to themselves. Despite the fact that you said they all have 2 beds. Do you not sleep in the same bed as your wife? You can't figure out a scenario where maybe some of the other kids bunk up in their parents' rooms so that your adult daughter can be treated as such. For the record, my daughter is 19 now. I do not concern myself with her private life. I'm sure she's sexually active, but the thing is, it's none of my effing business. I raised her make good choices, and by questioning her choices, I undermine that education. You're the a-hole. This has nothing to do with giving them privacy for sex. Look at it this way, you and your wife get a room alone because you are adults. Your parents get a room of their own because they are adults. The other parents get a room alone, but suddenly a 23-year-old has to share a room with younger cousins. You need to realize she is no longer a kid. She might want privacy, but it's not about sex. It is about being an adult. Why don't you and your wife take a room with the younger kids? Why don't you have to share your room? Your daughter is an adult and no longer one of the kids. If it is about money for rooms, then you need to step up and host some kids in your room. Otherwise you are just pulling a power play on her. Way to ensure that she will leap on any opportunity to not vacation with you in the future. Not the a-hole. This is how my parents and wife's parents handled it until we got married a few years back. Even when rooms weren't limited, we didn't object because seriously it's 4 nights. Get over it, enjoy the trip, and go back to life as usual. What your daughter does around your family doesn't have to be the same as what she does at her place. Especially so if resource distribution is an issue. The only difference might have been that normally my folks would not have made a guest share a room with younger relatives. When we were dating and staying with my folks, my wife would get a room to herself if possible. When the situation was reversed though, my in-laws just threw me in with her brothers. It wasn't an issue either way. The boyfriend sharing a room with the younger relatives is the only potential issue I see, just because it might be uncomfortable for guys who don't know each other well. Or it'd be fine. It depends on their personalities/maturities. Thanks for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe for more videos. See you all later.